Hey guys, this is Mikro. All the New World database stuff has been updated for Season 2, and I wanted to go through some of the loot with you guys, because I haven't talked about a lot of this a lot. The first thing that's the elephant in the room is the Devour ult has been released. From playing in 3v3s on the PTR, they feel decent. I wouldn't say they're insane, but the one that is the brutal variant seems to be the best generally to me. It does a damage and it pulls people in a targeted area. There is a bit of a cast time to it, which is kind of annoying, but it feels like it's pretty impactful overall and is sort of like a mini grab wall at times. It also has some sort of stagger-based effect, it seemed like, so it seemed pretty decent in terms of dealing with light players that are trying to navigate around the battlefield along with the slow. There's another one that's on here that's kind of interesting that gives you an interruptible for staggers for a brief period of time, and I think that's interesting from a healer perspective that might be viable from PvP or PvE instead of something like a traditional stone form, but I think it's mostly for healers that are like thinking that they don't really use stone form a lot and they could use something that's like kind of like stone form but not exactly the same and then have better utility in general. It's kind of interesting for. And then lastly, the last one does a poison dot, so that could be decent versus healers to prevent them from getting the diamond proc, but other than that, I don't really see it being super useful overall. So there's a lot of different drops that got added to the actual perk pool. There's a lot of like new 615 drops that are kind of from the actual quests themselves that don't seem to have uh, like icons for them right now, but there's like a whole acid resistance kind of beast ward set, which I guess is kind of alluding to what the raid is going to be like, considering you're going to get this before you go into the raid from the like kind of quest rewards. So that's something that's kind of noteworthy. There's a lot of like good gear pieces, but the really big elephant in the room, I'll quick through this at one point here, but there is a new life staff which has blessed, fortified, sacred ground, and refreshing move. So now life staff users, every other class is jealous of you because you have a Bis one for for fortified sacred ground, you got a Bis one for mending orb, and you got a Bis one for refreshing divine embrace. So you guys don't even have to roll weapons anymore, which is kind of nuts. But yeah, so that's going to be a thing. So that could be useful for like a PvE perspective if you want to prevent people from getting one shot by certain mechanics. That fortified sacred ground could be pretty good for that. The next big thing is we have the actual sandworm drops. The base idea from these drops is everything it drops is a Lego, which is really, really cool. And the perk pools are actually not that bad. So if I click on like one of these, like let me click on the okay, are these icons also bugged? So this is a light glove. No, it's a heavy legs. Okay, these icons are bugged. But the perk pulls on these are pretty good. They have a high chance for resilient, and then they have the actual wards themselves, so they can be used for both PvP and PvE. They are bind on pickup, so that is kind of the bad part, I guess, about them. But they have really good perk pools, really easy potential to actually get some bis endgame gear by doing raids. So I think raids are going to be like the new kind of endgame. And if you want to get this sort of budget set going, if we go back to the actual beginning here, there are some like bis medium pieces that, well, not bis, but good enough medium pieces to run in a raid that spawn at 615. So that might be good enough gear score for a lot of people just to get started in the raid. You don't necessarily need to get to 625 off the bat if you get these pieces, and I don't think they're insane, but they're decent enough probably to complete the raid alone. Moving on to some of the other drops in here. So this champion chest, I imagine that's what you get for beating the raid. There's a welcome back chest. There's this like kind of multi gear chest that gives you armor, weapon, and jewelry. One of these is guaranteed to be Lego. If you look at the actual like kind of jewelry perk pool in here, or I'm not gonna look at that one. Let me look back to I think I just had it right here. It's actually like pretty good in terms of like purple. So they'll all spawn with the thing that you kind of want. So amulets, every other class except for SNS, are, in my opinion, you want divine, or sorry, you want health. So it spawns with health, and then the other perk pools are just good overall in terms of perk buckets. So you have the opportunity here to get the health, get the stam recovery, and get the bis that you've always wanted for relatively cheap, but it is bind on pickup, and the actual stat line seems to be some sort of like RNG mechanic. So I wouldn't say it's super consistent, but by doing raids, you are very likely to end up with bis endgame gear for a lot cheaper well, basically free compared to other gear sets as a whole. So that seems very, very interesting from a PvP and PvE perspective, and it looks like raids are kind of the premium content that you want to be doing because it looks like you're guaranteed to get these drops from being the champion of the raid. So it'll be interesting to see how often you can get these rewards, but it seems like a very, very likely good resource to do over and over again on whatever characters that you have in order to maximize the chance at getting free abyss, basically. And yeah, guys, those are the big changes. I'm going to click through this now and kind of highlight some other pieces of gear, but I think the life staff that comes out of this is really, really insane. And the actual champion-based sets are also just nuts, but stick around if you want to kind of see the full tour of things that got released in this season. So there's a lot of like kind of champion-related gear that got released here. Has okay perk buckets. I don't think it's anything special. There's like a new sword, but that's nothing special. It's nothing you want. There's some artisan equipment, so you can get basically uh good enough like free equipment that you could be using. I don't think the actual perk pools are on here, but I'm pretty sure from what I've seen they have like alacrity from looking at other data mine sources. So these are just like really, really good end game related stuff that you can get like the artisan stash or sash. I'm pretty sure there's another artisan stash that satchel that drops too. This one's 600, so that's another free one. So now you have two free ones by just doing quests, which is really, really nice. Just a lot of like decent gear overall dropping from this. They have this like kind of Horde Master set, which has Shirking Fort on everything and just kind of random stats. Like Shirking Fort refreshing, so it could be viable from a PvE perspective since Shirking Fort is like a decent mechanic if you don't want to have to just all in invest on like one specific set. I think overall this isn't really viable to anything though because it doesn't have Ward, it doesn't have Brazil, so it's not really super viable, but it's like a decent like kind of budget set that you can kind of get going. Also, the skins are not bad looking, so maybe opportunity for transmog there. But that's what all of these pieces are. There's some like kind of fun ones, like the turban's kind of cool looking. But yeah, just a bunch of those. You've got this kind of plate helm oriented thing. This drops from the sandworm itself. Those also look pretty cool. I'd say a lot of these have like an opportunity for transmog, but there might be more cool things. It's all kind of like the human oriented skins. So like the ranger like looks like this like the stereotypical ranger from that stuff. So if you're an archer, maybe you want to like kind of go for that route if you use bow a lot. But that kind of depends on the person. All the all the gear has like kind of decent perk pools, but I wouldn't say it's like anything like mind-boggling good. Uh, the buckets themselves have like everything that you would kind of want though. They have a combination of like kind of banes for PvE. They have like good PvP stuff, but they don't roll with attunement. So anything that you'd want attunement on, you're not gonna be able to get bis from this sort of setup. But if you're a life staff user, you still got access to all the bis life staff, so you're good. But other people, you're gonna have to try your luck with weapons still elsewhere, which remain to be the kind of gap from a PvP perspective in terms of those cost a lot. There's jewelry now that spawns with refreshing toast. The amulets spawn with health. The rings spawn with keen, so all those are pretty solid perk pools. There's some decent weapons, but nothing looks super fantastic overall. Does musket have accuracy on it? No, it does not have accuracy. You're not going to use a musket in PvE, so I don't really see that being good. This Warhammer is kind of interesting because if you aren't using Warhammer a ton, maybe you want to be able to take the extra refreshing ward and then chain and lightning and enchanted isn't bad, but so like kind of as like a budget hammer oriented thing, I don't think this is bad at all. It's like a decent enough hammer and it comes with the refreshing ward, which is really nice. There's a rapier with refreshing ward. I don't think people really use refreshing ward on rapier a ton, but it's another option if you want something like that. There's the life staff that I've talked about a lot. There's a few other weapons in here, but none of them are super interesting. There's a blunderbuss with refreshing, so that has potential to be good for certain classes, but I don't really see it being insane. And overall, it's just kind of a lot of like interesting different pieces, but I'd say the biggest thing is definitely what comes from those raid crates, which is just random Legos basically that are really good from an endgame perspective. We don't really know if it's going to give shards too. If it gives shards as well, I could very see that just kind of overhauling the whole uh M10 oriented aspect. Like, why would you do M10s if you could do that? They updated the PvP perk pool, so it spawns at 580 now, which is a little bit higher. They have like kind of Bis PvE stuff, I guess. Well, Bis with quotes. It spawns at 580, so you can't upgrade it. But that's like kind of a decent starter aspect for newer players that they can get their hands on while they're leveling up, and then transition into better end game oriented loot. There's perk pools that okay, they might not be obtainable there, but there's the opportunity for certain items that spawn with resil on them, so these could be good for PvP if they actually do spawn. Okay, these are just coming from armor fragments, but they are different from the other ones that got added in for in before, I guess. There's this old one and there's this new one. They look exactly the same. Never mind. I think I just got baited. But yeah, guys, all these other ones aren't really as good, but you know, there's some decent things in here and there. But I'd say definitely the thing that we're kind of looking out for is look at these champion chests. Imagine there's probably some sort of champion oriented rewards as well. You get bis weapons from this, you probably get a decent amount of shards, and overall it seems like the raid is going to be like kind of the new PvP endgame or PvE endgame activity that kind of boosts you for all aspects of the game. So it seems like it's a good idea to start getting geared for that raid. Whether or not you want to use the free budget bis that comes with the acid resistance in it, or if you want to kind of roll your own gear is up to you. But this seems super, super interesting, guys. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you guys in the next video.